Good morning out there, Nigerians and our teaming viewers. We are still on this program this morning on ITV. And you all know ITV is certainly the best. This morning, we ride on the tide of nationalism and you. And I am your host, Ebenezer Oyetakin. We will be taking a look at X-raying issues that are contradictory to national development. Issues that are contrary to national development. And with me to take a look at this morning is the Publicity Secretary of Inter-Party Advisory Council, by the name Prince Chinedu Obi. And in our culture here on nationalism and you, I come to you, Prince Chinedu, nationalism and you.
It is my duties and responsibility to build our nation. Thank you very much.
It is his duty, my duty, your duty to build a Nigerian nation of our collective dreams and aspirations. And it is in that spirit we are taking a deep look at issues that should be effectively tried in order that we may have a smooth running at national development. Mr. Chinedu, Nigeria has come a long way. We just celebrated within this, the first day of this month, our 61 years as a nation. How will you assess Nigeria march as a nation thus far?
Thank you very much, Ebenezer. Thank you again for inviting me to ITV. And like I will always say, thank you for the good job you're doing with this program. Let me correct that I am the National Organizing Secretary of IPAC and not the National Publicity. But in my party, the National Rescue Movement, I'm the National Publicity Secretary.
Okay,
that's where
very good.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, 61 years post-independence, if there's something we need to celebrate so much is that at least we're still one country.
Very good.
For me, that's the takeaway, that with all the troubles, with all the ups and downs, that we can still say there's one country called Nigeria. But looking at it from the perspective of growth, I'm not too sure that we are where we should be as a nation after 61 years. Every day, you begin to think that the vision and aspiration of the founding fathers of the country to build a one very united nation where peace, unity will thrive is fast eluding us, and I think that we could have done better as a nation. If you compare the countries that got independence at the same time we got independence, or our peers in the Asian tigers that were rated the same time with us in some years back, where they are compared to where we are, one would say that we've not done so well, sir. Unfortunately, a country with all the mineral resources, including human resources, a country with all the potentials that we have, should be better than it is today. In whichever, whether you're looking at it from economic development, social development, whether you're looking at it from human development, whichever development you want, indices you want to look at, we've not done as much as we should do, because to whom much is given, much is expected. God has endowed Nigeria with so much. What most people think are things that divide us, ideally should actually be the things that if we harness together will make us a great country. So
very well. But then if you will have to take a deep look at Nigeria, what will you consider as impediments to the speed at which we ought to have developed and grown?
First of all, is leadership. The greatest enemy of Nigeria had been leadership. We've never had, if you like the word, patriotic leaders who design the programs they need to run for the country and stay in it. Year one, I'm going to do this for the country, and you see the person doing that in year one. Year two, I will do this for the country, and you see the person doing the same thing in year two. Our leadership recruitment process has been a problem because we turn up people who ideally do not have the competencies to lead a country. And we either make them a local government chairman, we make them honorable members at state and national levels, we make them governors, we make them presidents. And what you get is, as it were, whatever a man sows is what he reaps. If you sow incompetence, you reap incompetence. For me, that actually has been the greatest impediment to our development, because leadership is everything. Leadership sets the direction. Leadership says this is how the goals we need to achieve, and ensure that those goals are achieved. Because one thing is to dream of something, the other one is to realize it. And in realizing it, you need to set parameters that measures every step of your growth, and you have to put your eyes on the ball. You have said we will do this. You do it and ensure that every I's that you need to dot, every T's that you need to cross is crossed to ensure that you achieve the goal you have set for yourself.
While some people will agree with you, some people will also tell you that our leadership emerged from among us. So what about the followership? Have we been able to create a national spirit that we ensure that the type of leadership that we throw up emerge naturally from the national consciousness?
I will agree with you 50% on one side and disagree on the other side. I agree to the extent that yes, our leaders come from our system. It's the system that throw up the leadership, no doubt. But if you look at the system over time, you will discover that it's not necessarily that the leaders that emerge are thrown up by the people. Some of them threw themselves. Our country was hijacked at one point, and that hijack, what it has done is that it now throws up people within a cabal. And I can paint it for you. You have 18 political parties in this country today. It is only the candidate they present to you during the election that Nigerians will be exposed to vote for. There's no system that throws up someone from the scratch. There was a time we tried option A4 that brought the likes of Abiola, and today we still look at that as one of the grassroots. If you remember, there was one ticket in the country where we have a Muslim ticket, and Nigerians didn't have a problem with it.
They did it.
So that shows what came from the people. The people can decide what they want. But when you subject the people to your own choice, you create a system where the people don't even have access to it. 18 political parties. How many Nigerians are members of political parties? And you even come to the party, there are no internal democracy within the party. Some persons come up and make themselves party leaders and decide and impose candidates on the people. If at the end of the day, after primaries, whether it's direct or indirect, and the wrong persons are thrown up, the Nigerian people are only now subject to voting from the 2 persons or 3 persons brought before them. But if our leadership recruitment process carries the people along, getting persons who have worked with the people, who understand the people, who know the needs of the people, who know what the problems are, the issues are, definitely will make progress. But that has not been the case. So that is why I said, to an extent, I agree with you that yes, these leaders come from our society. To the other extent, I disagree, because the persons that would throw up to them are sometimes people, they don't have any choice. But I agree. Value systems of countries have a way of shaping persons within the system, so that if we have internalized our values so well, anybody that emerges, whether it's imposed or selected, would be able to, live the values of the society. But today, you won't even see. Look at the level of bloodletting in our country today. And you ask yourself, have we lost values for human life, that people are killed every day and there's nothing? And if you look back, this is a society where people have value for life. So what went wrong? We've lost our values, to maybe foreign value, or if I would say things that are not in tandem with us. And of course, that has taken us away from everything that we're known for.
Let us get down to the specific. Some people have also said that outrageous personnel costs, political self-profiteering in remunerations has been an impediment to the extent that we can grow as a nation. Do you share this view?
To a very large extent, I share the view. Share the view because we have a lot of political offices, some of which are duplication of roles. And if you spend all the resources you have in recurrent, paying their fees and allowances, it will affect the monies that you require for development. On the other hand, I don't also think that the little money they spend as remuneration, because I'm not sure that if you pay someone $1 million as a salary, it is so much to affect the monies that would be used for the development of the country. But where I think the problem is in those other lapses, all those leakages, those ones that come out of corruption. A project that is supposed to be implemented with 1 billion naira takes 20 billion naira because someone had reserved some interest somewhere, which has been the character of development. Many times I tell people when they come into Abuja and they say Abuja is a very fine place, and I say, yes, the monies we spent building Abuja can give us 10 Abuja across the country. So those are, for me, the areas where I think that if we blocked very well, we would be able to save money for national development. So the corruption is actually where the problem is. Yes, these are Nigerians, so even if you create everyone to be in political office and you pay them due rent, due salaries and due accruements, I don't have a problem with that. The one I have a problem with so much about is this other leakages, the one that are taken by force.
Okay, some others also said that apart from some of the things that have aggravated the personnel cost and the recurrent expenditure is that we deliberately, some institutions, parastatals and the rest of it, ministry deliberately created, and it is from both national level to the state level, they deliberately created volumes of ghost workers. Some government has been weeding them out, both at the federal and the state level, but it seems that the thing is still persisting.
This issue of ghost workers is something that had been with us, and every new government comes and gives you its own statistics of the number of ghost workers
they have weeded out, and yet another
and every day you still see them. Sometimes when we look at the wages, what was spent on recurrent is amazing. But like I always say, take away the recurrent, go to the typical budget of every ministry or parastatal. You find what I call a template. The provisions that were made for last year is brought back for this year. For instance, you made provisions to buy computers last year, buy vehicles last year, buy some equipment like furniture, and in the recurrent the next year's budget you find the same thing as budget item. I don't understand it. Is it that we use computers and after 1 year we discard them and we buy others? So the template nature of the budget is not targeted, it's not progressive. We don't budget based on this, we budget based on a template of what we've been using in the last 10 years. And when you have that, you can't achieve the kind of development you want, because budget is not made to solve a progressive problem. What it does is to satisfy some personal interest.
Now, talking about corruption, which you have mentioned in the past, there is also issues of deliberate circumventions of government revenues. Deliberate circumventions of government revenues by parastatals, by some government agencies, non-remittances and the rest of it, including stamp duties, taxes, commissions, all of those things, and being diverted. Some people have consistently raised the issues that it took an individual for us to know custom can generate so much for the country, and it took another individual to know that a non-remitting jam can actually remit in billion. This adjustment, but is it supposed to be so? Is it not supposed to be institutional integrity?
We have a systemic corruption, institutional corruption, if you like. The two examples you gave in JAMB and customs is just one in a million. It's unfortunate that we have to rely on one man to get something right, rather than pursuing an institutional checks and balances that brings in a situation where even if you bring someone that decides to be corrupt, the system would not allow the person to be corrupt. The leakages are so much across board. If you've worked in a consulting, financial consulting firm like I work for one, you'll be amazed at the level of leakages. Government revenues are trapped here and there, and as if there are cabals all over who would not allow these revenues to come. If we shut down our oil today and decide to get internal generated revenues from, you mentioned something like stamp duty, which is the one you get every transaction you have, even in the bank now, you have a 15 naira deduction. These monies come in billions that if they are put together, you don't need so much money. Like we even discussed before we entered the studio, this country does not need to borrow so much of these monies that we borrow. We can generate the money internally. But there are cabals that make sure that these monies don't enter the treasury for the collective use of the country. So if we deal with that, there's so much money to save in the country. There's so much money to generate in the country. Starting from even the nearer ones around you, if you find this nearest motor park by you and the kind of collections that happen around that place, only few percentage of that money goes into the local government. Pause. I was telling you about until PERF was recently disbanded. The petroleum equalization fund, there's one they call NTA, National Travel Allowance, Transport Allowance. There are leakages within that put your head and try to see if you can collect it. There are persons that make sure you can't get those kind of monies, and they're in billions. They're in billions. If you do a little assessment or audit of some of these big firms, you'll be surprised that principal number one agencies of government are even guilty. But I think what it requires is a will of a government who knows that these things exist and willing to deal with it. They are not just the normal laundry we make about the fight about corruption, and in the real sense of it, we're not doing anything. If we block leakages in this country, we don't need any foreign loan.
Well, still on the issue of corruption, because somebody said, if we can tackle Nigeria corruption to the degrees of 70%, viably so, that we would have solved Nigeria problem to almost 95%. Now, corruption, they also said, thrive on 4 pillars. That is, lack of the fear of God. Number 2, lack of the fear of authority. Number 3, conflicts of interest. And number 4 is impunity. To what extent do you think we can get it right by addressing these pillars upon which the corruption thrives?
Yeah, I agree with the 4 pillars. And to add that, having identified these pillars and we are unable to punish persons that have been involved in corruption, the consequence is that more persons will be encouraged to get into corruption. Every day you hear drama of people being arraigned for $10 billion. You hear that more or less like a media trial. In actual sense, we don't find people who go to prisons maybe 1 in a million from this whole drama. I think that the issue of punishing people who have been actually corrupt will help to deter other persons who want to get into corruption from doing it. The statistics of 70% for me is very, very conservative. If we block leakages in this country for as much as 50%, I tell you, we don't. 50% is, if you block 30% corruption in Nigeria, we will make a lot of money. We make a lot of money, because check our procurement process. For just one vehicle that you know how much it costs is in the open market, and check how much it's going for. Look at construction. You're doing a kilometer road. You already have, no matter the terrain, whether it's in this the northern part or the southern part, you have an idea of how much a kilometer road construction would cost. But sometimes you see billions of naira thrown into it. And the very funny thing is not only that these monies are even budgeted, in the actual sense, the construction is not even there on ground. So corruption is our headache. Once we're able to deal with those pillars, it's not, you can't just even pin it to each of those ones. It's a collective, it's a combination of all this. Because when we deal with things and we have the fear of God, like you identified, and you know that this thing I am doing has a consequence, I have to answer for this thing. You know that the money that is created for health infrastructure that I refuse to deploy could also haunt me. Remember, at the heart of COVID-19, people who stole money and thought they could go to England and America could not step out of the country. So you can imagine the monies that they would have used to build our health infrastructure, which they spent hoping to fly into Europe. So billionaires were dying like they would die in their bedrooms because, you know. And those who have also spent the money meant for our road construction, who had gone to buy jeeps, and of course the roads are so bad now. Kidnappers and bandits are there waiting for them to cross. So they are now escaping through the train. Is the train safe? So the point is that if we begin to realize that there are consequences, that the corruption that you think will benefit you now will haunt you the next day. If we begin to have that at the back of our mind, I'm sure we can begin to deal with it. You actually know, let us take these pillars one by one. The fear of God that you have briefly talked about. The fear of God, you know, even the prophets and this thing, they find it difficult because you can only preach it, you cannot enforce it, and the rest of it. So they find it difficult to implement that. But yet, the behaviors of our clergymen, in consonance with national construction spirit, can do a lot if we use our pulpit to preach and the rest of it, and to even check the people who brings us tithe and the rest of it. What your take on this? It will disappoint you to know that most of our religious centers today are more of business centers than spiritual homes, where what people preach today is more of prosperity, more of claim it and you get it now, without necessarily talking about hard work. Dignity of labor. Nobody talks about hard work, or just claim it and you get it. We present religion these days to look as if it's something that is so smooth. The Bible said, Jesus Christ said, if you want to follow me, carry your cross. I don't think cross is prosperity. I think cross means suffering. Nobody preaches that today. So we've lost that. The religious institution, only the Orthodox churches today still talk about salvation. The new ones talk about prosperity. Claim it. You come to, claim it. You are in the church today. You're going to. So that for me, the religious class has also failed. But ideally, that should have been one of the places to cultivate the character of people, where you teach people the consequences of their action as to how they deal with it after now. You know, when you meet your God, and if you didn't do this right, this is the consequence. I think we've lost that. Well, again, the fear of authority. Why do people lack the fear of authority? if you cannot punish a crime that you're guilty of, the authority has also not helped matters. The authority is the same people we hear about every day, these billions, that billions taken. And sometimes some of the persons that get involved in this, you find that they have someone there who protects them. So it doesn't work. You know, when you are compromised somehow, so nobody fears authority again, because even the authority lacks the capacity to deal with it. With all the enforcement agencies we have, we still have criminality going on here and there. So the painful part is that the authority is unable to enforce deterrence. Once that is absent, a man stole, we know this man stole, he's given a chieftaincy title, he's given a national honor, his impunity endorsed.
Is it that we don't have effective monitoring system to pinpoint all of these malfeasances that are contrary to development in our system? That is why the authority is not efficient enough in the punishment?
It's a system failure. It's a system failure. A man, the code of conduct for public officers, what it anticipates is that once you get appointed to a political office, there's an expectation of the highest amount of money that kind of office can pay you. So much that once you begin to live above that means, the system knows something had gone wrong. But today, you know that one of the easiest ways for someone to become rich is to get into a political office. So we see it, that a man who didn't have a bicycle yesterday, because he's a councillor now, is driving an SUV of about 40 million naira. It's measurable, it's something. So if you're talking about monitoring, even the common sense can monitor it. But the system does not punish it. That's the problem. Once the system is able to call you to order to account for the monies that they feel that your level of income should not carry, you discover that we're still where we are. So I also believe that the system has not done so well in terms of monitoring and in terms of checking and having people account for any additional luxury that we think their income does not support.
Conflict of interests.
Perfect. In the same way, conflict of interest, you've seen cases in the country where a man awards a contract to his own company, to his sibling, to his brothers and sisters, someone in his church, someone in his mosque, is there. And once we can't take away conflict of interests, basically, and it works in so many ways. We know that if we're citing this industry in Pape here, it has a comparative advantage, but because it will not benefit the implementer, he takes it to Kogi, somewhere in Kogi, which does not have the comparative. Those are the conflict of interest, and of course that's actually one of the things that have affected implementation of some of the very good ideas we've had. So conflict of interest is one of the key ones, and unfortunately too, the code of conduct for public officers also captured that, but I'm not sure I've seen a lot of persons who have been sacked or punished for getting involved in conflict of interest. The little we saw of the sacked Babachia, the secretary of government that paid about 200-something million naira to a company, the man is still working very free. And,
we have ICPC, we have Economic and Financial Crime Commission, EFCC, we have the Code of Conduct Bureau, we have also the Code of Conduct, the Tribunal, and things of that nature. Why do we still have issues with impunity in the system?
If you like, create 5,000 more. When you create a new law, a new crime will emerge, I hope you know. So the more agencies you create, the more the number of crime. It is the will to deal with it. Most of these jobs are, for me, duplication of office. The police is empowered to deal with some of these issues. So it's not about the number of agencies that we create. If you like, create 2 million new agencies, and we have not dealt with the core issues. We've not punished the ones we've got. We encourage more persons to get into criminality.
The place of a judiciary in all of this.
The judiciary that we're told was the last hope of the common man is too far from the common man today. If you take up any matter in the country today, even a civil matter, it takes you eternity. Sometimes people don't even live to see the end of the matter because the courts don't sit. When they sit, unnecessary adjournments, and when you get judgments, sometimes you find that some judgments in this country look like something that is purchased. That's something you think was going right automatically turns left.
You know, sometimes ago, a judge, and not just a common judge, but a chief judge in Abuja here, he gave presiding over a case of a stolen pensions money that runs into billions, and automatically he gave a condition: 2 years in prison. Alternatively, you pay 750,000 naira out of all the billion that were certified to have been stolen. Then the man walked into his car, signed a check of 750,000 naira, and he was let loose, and the rest of it. Thank God, some of us then, I wasn't in this position then, some of us then, we moved. We wrote to the NJC, and under Madam Mokhtar, NJC came up, and they invited us. When we were going for this thing, the particular judge came with 6 members of Nigeria Bar Association, about 6 senior advocates, but no one followed us. But when we confronted them with our facts and figures, and we did on the point of law assessment of peculiar cases that were similar to that, and the accurate sentences meted out in form of punishment, to the glory of God, that judge was suspended without salary for 1 year, and I think he walked away from that place into retirement. So what is the role of civil society organization in ensuring that our governmental arms, be it legislature, judiciary, and executive, function optimally to the satisfaction of national creed?
I think the case you singled out now, you followed it, and of course you got the remedy you wanted. But sometimes too, you may also look at it from the constraints of the judge with the provisions of the law. For instance, if the last time the amendment to that law was done like 50 years ago, and the penalty as enshrined in the law is 1,000 naira for the offense, the judge will not change the law. The judge might be constrained at that point. So I think the role of civil society is to identify some of those laws that need to be, if you like, updated to give appropriate and consummate punishment for such penalties. But otherwise, if the judge is going to act based on what the law says, and the law is maybe looked at the last 30-40 years, you might not blame the judge. Take copyright, for instance. Up to today, I think copyright still says if you duplicate my work or so, you pay either 2,000 or 3,000. That's the law. So if that is the case, if a judge passes that, you won't hold the judge. So what we need to do as civil society is to look at some of those things and see the ones that need to be upgraded, the laws that need to be, with the realities of time, so that
some people will also disagree with you that it is not about the law alone. They said some operatives, both at EFCC, ICPC, and some others, they do water down cases in consonance and the rest of it.
I don't have the facts to agree with this, but of course everybody knows that when you charge a man for 2,000 count charges for the sake of having a media hype, you are gradually killing the case. Sometimes you hear a man is charged for 2,000 count charges, and you ask, why 2,000 count charges? You don't need 2,000 count charges to find someone guilty. Just find the smallest you can find. They can't charge it too. Can't charge it.
Mr. Chinedu,
so some of the times the matters I agree with you are killed at investigation levels. If you know that we can want to give this man a soft land, you can find a way of pushing him to where he gets 1 naira and get that.
Mr. Chinedu Obi, looking at it, we are rounding up, because if we have to continue with this, it is inexhaustible. But issues that are contrary to national development that we should avoid as a nation, your last word to the nation.
My mind is to say that we need to begin to rediscover our country. Now, my party, the NRM, believes that a country will be run on some basic principles. First, rule of law. You have to have a rule of law that governs behavior, knowing that if you don't have rules of law that you follow, people will behave the way they want to behave. When there is rule of law, you're going to have peace. No development can happen when there is no peace. Today, the challenge of the country is insecurity all over the place. Nobody will bring his money to invest here. So when we have peaceful environment, the country will be productive. If we are productive, we can have our prosperity shared. If you do that, we're on the path of progress.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful having you. It's always a pleasure having you on the station. And we hope when we'll have time to call upon you again, you will make yourself available to us.
Thank you very much.
Yes, that is the much we can take on X-raying the issues on national development, issues that run contrary to national development. And if you play your role, I play my role, we can set our nation on the high speed and lane of sustainable national development and growth. Don't change the channel, because we will be proceeding into the second segment of the national discourse.